All right, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I bring you greetings from the holy home of God, which we share. My name is Oliver Blue, and I am your temporary guide, your temporary coach. I am your temporary guru for the morning as we gather together around another workbook lesson out of the incredible spiritual document called A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles. That's what ACIM stands for. And we have been using this resource that we have so been blessed with to have it translated into the earth by way of Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford as they received this updated revelation from the revelator himself, from God himself, from the Holy Spirit himself, from love himself, from Jesus himself, from Buddha himself, or whatever you recognize as that supreme higher power. It doesn't matter what the name is. It's only one source. It's only one. It's only one reality in which is only one light. Use that word. All these terms are symbolic of the love that we all share, the life that we all share, the one being that we all share. It is only in the human experience that we label and come up with different labels and names, but what's important is the idea. What's important is the love that inspires the idea. What's important is the truth that is true always. And so this morning we are so excited to be gathered together again around our next lesson, lesson 187. Lesson 187. And it's a very important lesson, and it has a very important idea to share with us, a very important reality, a very important thought. It's a thought from God. It's going to teach us the way that it is in reality. And it may knock down some sacred cows. It may expand on what you already know. And it may be startling. But all we ask, as the Course asks, is that you be open to hear the idea. Don't judge it. And apply the idea today. This is our idea for today. And it is in the application that we come to find that it is true. That is all that is asked. Thank you for being here. We love you. So, today's thought is I bless the world because I bless myself. I bless the world because I bless myself. So this is a cause and effect statement. It's a cause and effect. What is the cause? I bless myself. That's the cause. And in so doing, I bless the world. That's the effect. Why? Because I understand oneness and the concept, and oneness is not a concept. Oneness is all there is. This is if you've been with us 186 days, today is 187. What you have, and you have stayed with us, what you have really been able to meditate on and to contemplate is on this reality of oneness, that there is only one reality, and God is that reality, and we're a part of that reality, and all living things are a part of that reality. And so we're unlearning separation and embracing oneness, because it is where the peace that we desire. And we've learned on yesterday that all of us desire peace. It is the peace that we desire. That is where God placed it, in oneness. He placed it into one self, the one being, the one love, the one life. And that's where we will find it, in embracing the oneness. If you look at Jesus Christ's message, at the core of his message, he brought the message of oneness. I and the Father are one. When you see me, you seen the Father. That God has reconciled all things back into the one thing. He called it Christ. The word Christ denote oneness. That's what it means. It's not a reference to the one life recording of Jesus, the man. But Christ represents all of us. Another word that is used is sonship, or son, not sons plural, but sonship. Sonship basically represent that which God created as one. He created himself, or recreated, or extended himself, or gave his entire self in creation. So what he gave is what was what created. It's what was received. So if you have not made the reality of oneness the basis for your perception, the basis for your reality, then just continue to be open to that reality. It is not something foreign to us. It is the most natural idea or thought in our DNA. Oneness. This is where we are. This is what we have learned, that there is but the one thing. God is, and there is nothing else. God is, therefore I am. That is a oneness statement. And here, this is a oneness statement. I bless the world. Why? Because I bless myself. I am the cause of the world being blessed. You're not blessed because of the world. The world is blessed because of you. And what is the world? They say the world is nothing more than a false idea about the Son of God, or about the oneness, or about yourself. When we don't embrace our true reality, we embrace a false reality. It's called an illusion, or it's something that we're not. And it is in that vein that we create a world that we have observed, and that we have history that show that the world has been a place of pain and suffering and sorrow. That comes out of the, not embracing the foundational belief or idea or reality of oneness, that we're all one. Humanity is all one being, all one self that we all share. We found that the nature of God is sharing in extension. We're going to learn today that, God is not about, the nature of God has nothing to do with sacrifice. And that's been, built into us by the world's teaching. That sacrifice is a real thing and it's a God thing, but it's not. Sacrifice is not a God thing. Sacrifice will lead you into error. And you have a wrong perception about yourself. You have a wrong perception about your brother. And you'll have a wrong perception about your Creator, if you view it through a belief in number one, separation, or belief in sacrifice. And most traditional religions are built on sacrifice. That's why you see the difficulty in the error that comes out of that belief system, the suffering and the pain that comes out of that belief system. So let's get into it. I'm excited, and I hope you are. So I bless the world because I bless myself. No one can give unless he or she has. This is a basic, acceptable idea. No one can give unless he has. In other words, you cannot give what you do not possess. So in order to give something, you must first possess it, is what we're saying here. We all agree on that. In fact, giving is proof of having. To give something is the proof that you actually possess it. We have made this point before in a previous workbook lesson, that you cannot give what you do not have, and to give is a proof that you do have it. What seemed to make it hard to credit is not this point. But no one can doubt that you must first possess what you would give. No one would doubt the fact that you got to have it in order to give it. It is the second phase on which the world and true perception differ. But where the course differs with the world is on this. Having had possession and having given it away, then the world asserts or teaches us that you have lost what you have possessed. In other words, when you give something away, you no longer possess it. That is what the world teaches us. But the course has a different idea. It says, the truth maintains that giving will increase what you possess. So the difference in the way the world thinks or teaches or conditions us, and the way that reality is, or the course, or what God thinks. The God idea is, when you give away something, you increase your possession of it. So the idea leaves not its source, so that what you give really never leaves its source. The form may leave, but the idea remains in the one place of the giver. Therefore, that idea increases as you give it away. Jesus said it this way: give, and it shall be given. See, give in form, and it shall be given to you. And the idea of what you gave shall be increased in you. It's God's law of circulation, or God's law of multiplication, or God's law of increase. Whereas give, and it shall be given. So when we understand this, that we but give to ourselves. So giving and receiving is one act of love. That's what I meant when I've said that in the past. If you will just catch this. When you extend that which you possess to another, you don't lose it in God's sight, or in the way heaven or the kingdom of God works. You increase it in yourself. But in the world of perception, we are taught that when we give away a physical thing, if I gave this cup away to another person, then I no longer possess the cup because my eyes can't see it. But what the kingdom said is, your giving, the idea of giving, is more of a reality than the cup, because eventually the cup will lose its original worth or value, or eventually disappear because it's in form. But the idea of giving is not in form, it's not in time, it transcends form and time. And you increase the idea of giving each time you give away that which you possess. And so you only increase in your giving. That's the nature of love. That's the nature of God. And that is your nature. But we have been taught contrary to that giving something away, we don't possess it anymore. And so someone gained at the expense of someone else's loss. That is not kingdom thinking or kingdom reality. That is what the world of separation, that is what an ego thought system would teach you. for the purpose to keep you from being the giver or the extender that you are by nature. Why? Because that further promotes the idea of separation. See, this whole world is designed to keep us apart, to keep us separate, to keep us at odd, to keep us at war, to keep us fighting, to keep us under a threat, to keep us under an attack or being attacked, keep us on the attack or under the attack. That's what this world is designed, the way we're trained in this world system. And we did that to ourselves by rejecting our very own nature, our very own identity. And so the truth maintains that giving will increase what you possess. And when you embrace this idea, you begin to see the enormous blessing that giving is. You look to give everything, You would think that would be the response. How is this possible? For me to give a thing away and still possess it, or even possess it the more. How is this possible? Well, all things are possible with God. In the world, in God, like you said, all things are what? Possible. That's wow. In the reality of true life, that's how life is even. If you look around life gives and life expands. It's like when you go and prune a tree or a bush, you cut it back, you give it away, you give up some of your present possession. And next thing you know, that bush or that tree or that shrub or whatever you prune back, it has grown beyond what it was. That is the life concept. That is the law of life. That is the law of God or the law of love that's at work in nature. And that law is at work, and it is the law that we all really, operate under. It's a system of law that we operate under. It is the law of order. You hear the word law and order. Well, this is the real law and order. The real law and order is that which God thinks. It's in which God gives. That's the real law and order. The law of love, which in itself, love gives, love extends. That's how we come to know ourselves. God extended himself. God so loved that he extended himself, and that which he extended was himself, and then he called himself I am, or that's who we are. We are that creation of God. We are God's highest and only creation, which is himself. We are God's highest and only creation, which is himself. And what God gave, God increased in himself, and I am. So you are the representation. You appear as the very expression, the very express image of God, even in a grander way. God is the first and the only giver. We are the first receivers of that which was given, and that now we give to keep the extension going, because that's in our nature, that's in our DNA to give, like our Father, like our Creator. That's why when you look around this world and see all the hoarding that is going on among people, it's like that is the law of the land, the hoard, to build bigger barns, to buy more storage space. People move their cars out of the garage just to store more stuff. I know I'm on my soapbox with that. But anyway, point made, right? It's better to give and receive. because you can't give without giving to yourself. So when you're giving, you are receiving. So giving and receiving is one act of love. You get it? How is this possible? For it is sure that if you give a finite thing away, if you give something away in form, money, form, anything that is in form, anything that is physical, if you give it away, he says, if you give any finite thing away, it says your body eyes will not perceive it is yours. So when we give something away, physical, we no longer see it. Our body's eye will perceive that it's no longer mine, that someone else gained at my loss. That's the natural law. It says that's the natural law, or the law, that's the carnal law. He says, yet we have learned that things but represent the thoughts that make them. So someone made this cup, but this cup began as a thought in someone's mind. Remember, we talked about the law of creation. Everything is created twice in the world of perception. Everything is created twice. First in thought. Someone gets an idea in their mind, and then eventually that idea comes to fruition. It comes to form. So someone had an idea about a drinking cup. And then that idea eventually, life got poured into that idea, and it became a form, a living thing, something that we can actually feel and touch. It says, but this cup represents a thought in reality. And so even though you give the cup away, you don't give the thought of a cup away. The thought still remains with the person that gives it away. And it actually increases. It says, yet we have learned that things but represent the thoughts that made them. And you do not lack for proof that when you give ideas away, a cup is an idea, money is an idea, a car is an idea, any physical thing is an idea first. It's a thought. So when you give a thought away, he says, you strengthen them in your own mind. That which we give away, it says we strengthen the idea in our own mind. So the idea never leaves the mind that thought of it. In other words, God, who gave his whole self in creation, didn't lose himself. God only increased in what he is and what it is and what she is. Only increased in knowing that the Lord thy God is one. It only increased in the belief and the knowing and in the experience of oneness by giving itself. And so the whole idea of himself remained with God. So God gave all in creation, but lost nothing, only increased. Look at us, see? You catching this? I know we're kind of like, we're subterranean in what we're talking about here today. We've gone a little deep. We've left the shallow waters and we've gone a little deep in our understanding. Because remember, the more we understand a thing, the less chaos, the less confusion there is. There's more clarity. And our whole idea here in going through these workbook lessons is to get clarity on what is real and what is not real. We need to be able to distinguish what God created versus what we made. It's a huge difference. In fact, what we make in most cases is in opposition to what God created. Therein lies the suffering and the pain. And so, the only way to correct that error or mistake is to what? Get understanding. The writer in Proverbs in the Bible says, in all thy getting, get understanding. It says the world was created with understanding. It says everything was created with the understanding. God created based on a knowing or an understanding of reality. And so we need to understand where we find ourselves. We need to come to an understanding of the source of our existence. We need to understand our existence. We need to understand our purpose, our role, our function in this life that we say we have. We need to understand our role as being humanity, our role towards ourselves and towards each other and towards God. Because it's quite obvious from the world we see, from the results of the world that we see, that our thinking has been off somewhat. Because God is a God of love and a God of peace and a God of what? Abundance, a God of oneness. And when that's not reflected in the environment we find ourselves, then something has gone wrong. There has been a user error. It's like with your cell phone or with any technology, and it's in your laptop or your computer or your camera or whatever, your car. When something's not working quite right, there's generally something wrong. And 99% of the time, it's a user error. The user don't understand the device or the mechanism and how it works. But with understanding and clarity, they're able now to what? Make the correction and get more out of the device than we originally were getting out of it. And it's the same way with spirituality. When we don't know, when we don't stand under or understand God's thoughts or God's ways, which he said, my thoughts are higher, my ways are higher. And we continue to operate under a made up way of thinking and perceiving. The results of that is what we see in the world. Chaos, killing, disease, sickness, fear, lack. All the ugliness that's in the world is a result of mankind. God has nothing to do with that. That's a result of our doing. And our doing is a result of our thinking. And so we have to get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the thought system that we're operating in. We have to replace that thought system with the thought system of God. We call it the mind of Christ, or what we call it, the mind of God. We can know it's, the Bible says, who have known the mind of God that we may instruct him. It said, but we do have the mind of Christ. And so it can be it can be. You can be, I can be, anyone can be completely and totally in harmony and alignment with the laws of God, with the thoughts of God. It's just a matter of knowing. I love the Bible. The Bible says grace and peace is multiplied to us through the what? Through the knowledge or through the knowing. That's what it means. That means that if we're ever going to get out of our place of suffering, we have to study. We have to study. We have to become students. Even Paul, the Apostle Paul, told one of his proteges, Timothy, he said, study to show yourself approved. Rightly understanding what life is all about. You have to study life. All you have to have is a little willingness to study it and be serious about it. You only have, like we had the lesson that said, all you have to do is say, I want the peace of God. But you got to really mean it. You got to really mean it. You got to really want to know yourself. You got to really want to know what the truth is. And when you do, the truth will show up to you in a form that you can understand it. It only takes a little willingness. When you really are serious and really mean that you want to know what the truth is concerning you, concerning your creator, and concerning all of creation. When you just get serious about it, it will show up in your life in a form so simple. Jesus said, ask and it shall be given. That's what I'm talking about. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you. You're listening to this lesson this morning, obviously, because there's a desire for you to really, really know the meaning of life, know the meaning of your own self, the meaning of your creator and all creation. And it shows up in this form. Perhaps the form in which the thought seems to appear is changed in giving, yet it must return to him who gives. You cannot give without having what you have given return to you, even in a bigger, more abundant way. That is the law of God. Give and it shall be given. It says, nor can the form it takes be less acceptable. It must be more. See, this is the law of God. To give is to receive, or to give to yourself in a grander way, in a more abundant way. You can never go wrong in extending your gifts to others, because you're actually giving them to yourself. So look at this idea. Let's read the idea again for the day, the thought for the day. I bless the world because I bless myself. So the world is blessed because of you. The world is saved because of you. Because of your choice to awaken to the reality of the oneness that we share. So everyone benefits from your awakening. Anytime a person awakes from the world of illusions to the world of reality, everyone benefits. Because that person now blesses the world because he blesses himself. Ideas must first belong to you. An idea must first belong to you before you give them. You cannot give unless you possess the idea. If you are to save the world, see, if you are to be the savior of the world, and you are, we all are. We're all saviors of the world. We're all the light of the world. That's an idea. That idea must first belong to you before you can give it. You must embrace the reality of your light. You must embrace the reality that you are a vital part of God's plan for salvation for yourself. You must what? Accept the atonement for the, see again, the oneness. Atonement means the at one meant. You must embrace the reality of your sinlessness and your innocence for yourself before you can give it away. That's why sin consciousness and guilt and fear must be addressed. It must be looked at to see the nothingness that it is. It's just an idea that was taught to us by the world. Anything that gives you a sense of inferiority, any thought or idea that gives you a sense of separation, that makes you anxious about yourself, anything that makes you uncomfortable about yourself, any thought or idea, that thought or idea came from a false belief. And we must deal with the false beliefs. Even though you may have held these false beliefs dearly over the period of time. You may have made them sacred. I mean, there's a lot of sacred religious practices and religious ideas that we have held and have been passed down from generation to generation. But these ideas have not set us free. They have put us in a place of bondage. And we have preferred tradition over reality, over the truth. But the course here is specifically designed to have us examine every idea, every thought, every belief that we have ever held about ourselves that does not align with the truth that is true always, that does not align with what God created. God created you. So every thought about yourself, every experience about yourself that doesn't align with what God created, that's an indication that we have taken on a false idea or a thought or an idea that is not in harmony with God. And so in order for us to eventually break free from that experience of pain and suffering, that experience of sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, in order for us to break free of anything, we have to know what reality is. We have to know what the real thing is, so that we can move our allegiance from one thing and put our allegiance to to reality. So we can remove our allegiance to what is causing us to feel this way, and see ourselves this way, and see humanity this way, and see the world in a way that is not loving. We have to let go of that paradigm. We have to let go of that mental picture that we were holding in our minds. We got to let it go and embrace the truth of our oneness, of our absolutely perfection in God. We have to let go of our body identification. We have to let go of that natural birth that we had, that appeared as a body and identification. We called it a name. We have to let that go. That's why Jesus says, in order for you to enter into the kingdom of God, you must be born again. He's not talking about the physical birth. He's talking about you have to be what? You have to raise your awareness and your consciousness beyond time and space, so that you can understand the kingdom, so you can understand the Creator and your creation. You have to be willing to transcend the knowledge of this world. The knowledge of this world will only keep you in sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, and anxiety, pain and suffering. You have to be willing to become a student of God, a student of reality, a student of yourself. You have to. If you're going to experience the freedom that you already are. And these are it's just that simple. It's just that clear. It's not difficult at all. We're the one that have complicated things. We're the one that have complicated this world. We're the one that have complicated life. Life is simple. God made life so simple and shared the simplicity of it in all living things. But we're the only species. Humanity is the only species that seeks to be something that is not. If you look at all the other species in form, they are totally at home in their nature. They are totally at home in their environment. They adapt so easily, regardless of whether they're indoors, outdoors, it doesn't matter. But humanity is the only one that's uncomfortable here. We're the only one. Why? Because here we try to be something that we're not. Because we try to be something that we're not. You ever see a squirrel try to be something other than a squirrel? No. But we see humanity, where we try to be these separate individual selves, living apart, living in opposition, living in fear, living in anxiety, living in the past. We're always preoccupied in our thoughts in the past. We're always preoccupied by imagining a future. And we lose sight of the present. And so we seek to be something that we're not. And that's why we're so uncomfortable. And so we have to learn. We have to become aware of what is real about us. So ideas must first belong to you before you give them away. If you are to save the world, you first accept salvation for yourself. What is salvation? Salvation is merely you accepting the reality of who you are. You embracing what's already present. It's the knowing of yourself. And in accepting the reality that you and God are one, that you're not separate from your Creator or His creation. That means you're not separate from anyone, that we're joined with everyone, that we all share the same life, being, awareness, consciousness that our Creator is. That's salvation. And God said that He guarantees that eventually everyone that appeared to be here as a separate being will eventually wake up to this truth. He guarantees it, even if you have to live 1,000 lifetimes. But you will not believe that this is done until you see the miracles it brings to everyone you look upon. You won't really believe that salvation is a real thing with you until you see the impact that it has upon everything that you look upon, until you feel the effect of waking up and how it changes everything, the way you see everything and everyone, even yourself. Herein is the idea of giving clarified and given meaning. Now you can perceive that by your giving is your store increased. When you wake up to the reality of who you are and embrace the oneness that you are and begin to see everything through that oneness, it is in that clarification, it is in that experience that you now perceive that giving is your store, or the means by which you increase. Your extension of what you are, of what you have received in creation, is the means by which you increase even the more. You never increase by taking. Once you understand this, you would never take something from another. Never. Because to take something from another, you realize that you're only taking it from yourself. No, you give to another because you have given to yourself. That is the law of God. and that law is what is in operation. So, protect all things that you value by the act of giving them away. That's how you protect what you value. What do I value? Just think about in your life the things that you value, the things that you really think are important. It says that you protect them by giving them away, not by hoarding them or keeping them for yourself only. But it's about giving the blessing that you are away to others. Is the way that you protect the things that you value. You value money, you protect always being in abundance by giving it away. You value love, give away love. If you value health, give away health. If you value whatever you value, You protect it by giving it away. And you are sure that you will never lose them by giving them away. The way you ensure the things that you value, that you never lose them. And the way you protect them is to give them away. You desire peace, give peace away. You desire happiness, give it away. Whatever it is, give it away. One moment, please. All right. What you thought you did not have is thereby proven yours. Yet value not its form. So it's the form that we don't want to value. It's the idea that we want to value. Because remember, form is just temporary. It's just a temporary manifestation of an idea. But notice it's temporary. Everything in form is eventually what? It eventually is what? It's temporary. That means it eventually is deteriorating. It eventually will disappear. All things physical will eventually disappear. Everything in time and space will eventually disappear. So we don't want to value the things in this world. We want to value the ideas behind the thing, because that is what is eternal. Ideas leave not their source. Yet value not its form, for this will change and grow unrecognizable in time. So in time and space, form changes. You already know everything in form. Look around you. Everything in your house has changed in some way, and it will continue to change. Your body is a great example. From the time of birth to now, your body has changed considerably, and it's going to continue to change to eventually what? It's going to continue to what? Change to the point where what? It loses its usefulness. So you don't want to value the body. You want to value the idea that the body is being what? It's being energized by what? The life of God. That's what we value, the life of God, which energizes all things. And everything you see in the physical is energized by the one thing, by God, by the one source, by the source of love. That's what we want to value. We value love. We value oneness. See? For this will change and grow unrecognizable in time. However much you try to keep it safe. No form endures forever. No form, nothing in form will endure forever. It is the thought behind the form of things that lives unchangeable. So, what we want to come to know and understand is the thoughts of God. What does God think? Because it is the thoughts of God that are eternal. It is the thoughts that are internal, that is eternal. We look not at the things that are seen because they're temporary, but we look at the things that are seen because they are eternal. They are changeless. Who you really are is invisible. It's changeless though, and it's unalterable, and it's eternal. That's what we value. We don't value our body identification self. That's passing away. That's just a temporary experience. But who we really are as this timeless and formless being that God is, that's what we value. This innocent self, this guiltless self, this sinless self, this eternal self, this birthless self, this deathless self, that's what we value. So give gladly. With this understanding, what? We now give gladly. We can only gain thereby. That's the way you gain, by giving, contrary to the world. The world say hoard, keep it for yourself, build bigger barns. The thought remains and grows in strength as it is reinforced by giving. Thoughts extend as they are shared. Notice now, this is God's thinking. You are in the mind of God right now. For they cannot be lost. There is no giver and receiver in the sense the world conceives of them. There is a giver who retains. Notice now, God's ways are different than our ways, higher than our ways. So God said, in giving, you retain. There is no loss. He says, another who will give as well. So when we give to another and the other gives and the giving continue to extending, it is called the law of circulation. But when we, through fear and belief in separation, stop the flow of giving by hoarding in our own life, that hoarding really what causes us to become what? Dysfunctional, sick, unclear in our thinking. It's called greed. And we see what greed is doing in our world right now. Well, you have rich folks, billionaires and millionaires that only want more for themselves. And they will fight like hell to keep resources for getting the people that need it. They won't pass laws to help get people that need it. They won't, you see it right here in our country, in the United States. You see it in other countries, where it's about the 3% that have. They want the rest. They want more of it. And then those that have a need, they don't want to advocate for policies that will help others because they feel like if it's given to the common man, they can't have more. Isn't that so insane? So insane. But they don't know. But it's causing their own unhappiness, their function, their own lack of peace. And they're valuing the things. They're not valuing the thought of giving. There is a giver who retains, another who gives as well. And both must gain in this exchange, for each will have the thought in form most helpful to him. This is absolutely mind-blowing. We need to know this. We need to understand this reality of giving. We need to understand the reality of God's way of doing and being, the way the kingdom works, the way the laws of creation works. What he seemed to lose is always something he will value less than what will surely be returned to him. So here the idea is, what is more valuable is the thought. So as we give an idea away, a thought away, a thing away, it comes back to us. Maybe not in the same form, but it comes in a grander form that increases our awareness, that increases our understanding and consciousness. So it's the idea, it's the truth that we so desire. It's the wisdom of God that we so desire over things. Solomon said, our desire above all things, wisdom. And God said to Solomon, because you have desired wisdom over things, I'm going to give you both. That's what he meant. Never forget, you give but to yourself. So important. Who understands what giving means must laugh at the idea of sacrifice. And you know what? I'm going to stop right there, because this is getting into a whole new revelation here, this last half of this lesson. And I don't want to mix the two. I've given us enough to think about today and to practice and to engage in. I bless the world because I bless myself. So understanding the law of giving, understanding God's thoughts and God's ways is so important. And what we have just shared, it will take many lifetimes to really fully experience this. So we want to embrace this reality that we've just learned about giving and receiving being one act. About to possess something is to give it away. We're gonna meditate on that today, because this next section is going into a whole new teaching, training, a whole new thought that we need to learn too. And I don't want to mix the two. So we're going to stop right there and call this part 1. So think about it. You are a blessing. Why? Because God made you a blessing. God has blessed you. God has filled you with all the fullness of himself. So you're blessed. To be blessed means what? To be filled with the fullness of God. That's what it means. Say to yourself, I am blessed. And then close your eyes and see through the eyes of Christ that God has given everything that he has. He didn't hold nothing back from you. You may not have tapped into that experience. You may not have tapped into all that you are. But as we get through this, you're tapping into more than you have ever have. Because there's no end to what God gave to you. There's no end to the joy and the peace and the happiness. There's no joy to the love. There's no end to the depth of your being. God has given everything to you. All things are yours. We just need to embrace the thought. But to embrace that thought, we have to let go of all the other thoughts that we've been taught by this world of scarcity. All the other thoughts that God doesn't love me. Or all the other thoughts of keeping our minds preoccupied by the past. We're focused on what we done wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You just had an experience. And what may you not want to perpetuate. Now you have an experience in learning of what you want to perpetuate. You want to perpetuate the idea that God has given you everything. And you remove the old paradigm and install a new paradigm. And now you operate from that paradigm. You operate from that truth versus that false self that you was operating from that brought you pain and suffering. Now we operate from the place of our innocence, our wholeness, our holiness, our complete perfection, our oneness. And now, so we perceive everyone and everything from that point of view. It's not just for you, it's for everyone. We understand that now. So we're going to stop right there. Part 1 of Workbook Lesson 187. Practice today. Think about today that you are blessed and you have blessed yourself. And you bless the world. You can't do but bless the world. And guess what? The world can't do but bless you. So there's nothing to fear. No one can harm you when you know this. They can only bless you. The world can only bless you. Because you are blessed to be a blessing. Stay with that thought. We'll be right back. Bye-bye.